And now the word is for Thomas. Thomas in Kinyarwanda. And in case you're wondering, this is all traditional Rwandan wear. So we're following what our grandparents how they used to dress. Again, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming on this special occasion. Special in the sense of celebrating the life he lived. And my dad was truly a hero. He supported everyone. He sacrificed everything he had for other people. He had every quality of a hero. Brave, strong, and risked his life for other people. I remember a story he used to tell. He told me a while ago. He was in Somalia, and he found a boy that looked like he was suffering from hunger. He was very thin and bony, so he tried to take him to the hospital, tried to feed him, but he died in his arms, trying to save this boy's life. And that's just who my dad is. He can risk his own life to help other people that he thinks, or other people that are strangers to him, just because he knows they're innocent and they're good people. And out of everything my dad and his friends have told me, he gave everything he did 110%. His work, sports, and especially family. Now, in Rwanda, his work was based in Congo, so he was never home that much. He used to come like twice a week. And every time he came, he made every second worth it. He made it seem like he never even left. He was always there for us. And he loved us, and we loved him. I used to be sad, but through the support of my family and friends that they have given me, my mom, and my sister through the tough times, I came to realize that I shouldn't feel sad at all, because he never left us, and he will always be there for us and forever will. I hope to be the man my dad wanted me to be, or my dad was. I hope to be a better man through his teachings, a man that he expected me to be, and I'll carry on his legacy forever.
Thank you, Tom. That was very beautiful. And so, in case you're wondering, one of my personal testimony that touches my heart, Greg was almost as close to my mother. This is very common in Africa today. People absolutely just leave for no reasons, simply of the simple, because they didn't have like Tylenol or aspirin or a simple checkup. So my mother also left in 2007 under the parasites, just because she didn't have a clean water. So as we all know, one of the heartbreaking things, and please, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm losing breath, okay? Greg left because he didn't have time to go get checkup. The simple thing in life that we take for granted. Excuse me, can I have some water? Go get a checkup. And that's just, like Thomas said, we can only live through examples by those who have done before us. Above and all, and what they accomplish through love. With love, we can do so much. Like Pastor said, Christ loved us so much, the fact that he gave his life for us. And may we all have courage and strength to fall into those steps. And above all, and may the Lord strengthen me in doing so. Again, thank you so very much all for coming. The word is for Kanyana now. She's in charge. I like to call her Kanyana because it's a traditional Rwandan name. But you all love to call her Grace, and I love to call her Kanyana. So Mrs. Grace has the word. Thank you again. It's a pleasure having you all. Thank you.
It's going to be a little bit hard, but I just want to thank you again. First of all, I want to thank my mother. If she haven't met Greg, I will never meet that man. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Mother. We love you.
And I want to thank my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, my husband's family. They have been really here for us. They have given me true love. So I thank you for all of
Thank you all for welcoming us in your family again. We thank you from the bottom of our wonderful hearts. We love you all. We're nothing but a bunch of loves. Put it that way.
And I want to thank all friends of my husband and all friends of us who have been here, who have been supporting us since I've been here. My husband passed when May 22nd, so it was 2 days ago. So, but you have been really supporting us. You have been there for us, and I really thank you for all of you. And I promise we'll be there for you. So, thank you.
Again, thank you. God bless you all.
And and it's hard to sometimes to make, special thanks, but I have to make that. But I thank everybody. So I have to thank Mr. Berry. He's not here. He's a friend of my husband. They went to school together, but he have make sure he was there every day, to make sure everything work out with us. One day I said, please don't do this. He told me, I knew Grace. If it's me who passed, Greg will do something for my family. He said, I will do everything for you. And I thank him. He's not here, but I just want to thank him. And I want to thank Charles. He traveled from Europe with his fiance. He was here for when Greg passed to bury him. And he traveled. Sometimes this country, you know how people count, single dollars, so to pay a ticket, to come just, to be with us, it's really, really big things for us. I thank you, Janet and Charles, and for your support. I want to thank you, Ron and Rob. They have been really family since I met my husband. I feel like they are part of my, my family too. So really, they have been here for us. I really thank you for everything you have done.
And for that, we're forever grateful. Thank you, really, again. We could never say enough thanks.
Yeah, I want to thank Karen and Stanley. I lost my dad 3 months ago. I went back home. They have staying with my children for 4 months. No one can do this in this country. It's to have time for others. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Marianne and Augustine, they have been there for us. They have been, if Stanley couldn't do it, Augustine would come and pick my children up, for that 4 months. I just want to thank you. God bless you. I think everybody, it's hard if I keep going. Everyone have something you have done for us. But, that will take forever. So I just thank you and God bless you. That was my speech.
Thank you so much again, really, honestly. From the bottom of all the one and hearts, I present my whole country. We thank you. Thank you for coming again. Okay, Thomas, you want to say something?
No, I'm not about
Thomas? No, Mr. Charles. So we would like now to take a moment to welcome Mr. Charles. Yes, please. Give us your big hug. As big as you have wanted. Thank you.
Actually, Grace, you asked me to say a few words, and I know Ron also found himself in the same situation as me because we didn't know what else to say. We said so much of what we felt last year. But then I looked at the DVD, and I was watching Gromo. I know Mrs. Gromo. And I had this voice in my mind saying, "Don't let me down, Chuck." So, I'm afraid I can't let him down. I think Gromo, I also listened to, Pastor, I listened to your speech. I thought it was remarkable. Unfortunately, you're talking to somebody who's lost his faith, and lost his faith in Rwanda. I was with Gromo during the genocide. I arrived in April '94. I saw so much horror. I saw so much horror in the churches. that I couldn't believe. And I remember once, and these are stories I used to share with Gromo, I remember once arriving at one of the churches where, you know, it was during, and there were all these bodies around, and you had this huge crucifix and Christ on it. And I couldn't help by thinking, my Lord, why have you abandoned them? Why did you abandon them? But it's fantastic to hear you and to see how much faith you've all been able to find. But some of us have not found it, but we were only witnesses. So in a way, we were only travelers through a tragedy that many of you lived through. But it also defines my relationship with Gromo. We used to talk to each other. I would be in Burma, he would be in Kigali, and we used to call each other over the phone when one of us wasn't doing very well, and we would just try to make sense of all of this. And I know Gromo, what I really admired about Gromo, and it's a word meaning human being, but he was a man, and he was a fighter. And he lived with so many contradictions, and he lived with so many doubts, but he dealt with them. And that's for me was the strength, and that's the friendship that I sincerely miss. Because in a way he was, you know, we were dealing with something we couldn't understand, which was life. I've now, of course, Jeannette, my wife, knew Gromo also a bit later than me, and in that sense we also have sort of a common, I guess love is the word, common love for him. But who does Gromo represent for me? One thing that is undeniable is he was courageous. I mean, I remember when you know, I was he's actually I was in Somalia, so Tommy, your stories of Somalia are very familiar. But I was in Mogadishu at the end of, you know, just when the genocide started. I was asked to go to Rwanda. I really didn't want to go to Rwanda. Gromo knew I was hesitating. He convinced me to come. And I remember once I was on and so I would come in and out. He was based in Kigali. I would come in and out. And I remember once I was in Nairobi, and Gromo was on the phone, he sat phone, and he was saying, "Chuck, you really don't understand. You won't believe what we went through today." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, we went. Dallaire, an extraordinary man, gave us some APCs. We delivered food to one of the sites where the people were hiding, and an RPG just flew over the top of the APC and just ricocheted off. And then, because Gromo, I have to be honest, was a little bit of a nutcase, so he said it was really fantastic because we have this sheet on the back of the wall, and we hadn't been fired upon by an RPG before, so now we can put an X on the RPG box." I thought, my friend, we need to talk about this. And so he took the list off. But nothing would stop him from doing it. Gromo was also, was passion, was commitment to you, and Tommy, you know, and Teresa, he was, is, will always be, but Grace knows, will always be with you. But he was also committed by, as I said last time, this sense of injustice. And for example, one thing he could never accept was the death of Florence and all of the children. And the fact, you know, it was a setup. There was, you know, there somebody, she was the head of UNDP administration. She was extraordinary. She was meant to be rescued by UNAMIR. Gromo had set up the operation. New York had been notified, and the morning of the operation, they'd all been killed. They'd been killed the night before.
Wow.
So it's something that always stayed with him, and that, of course, many of us share. And it's also what led to him, and this is, I guess, where I'll come to an end. For me, I mean, the tragedy of Gromo's death, I mean, I agree with, I don't know who said it. He died at a moment when he left the greatest impression of who he was. So in that sense, I think we're all, and if one were, and in your term, Pastor, Reverend, I think what's beautiful about Gromo's death is that the memory he leaves behind is perfect. He left quickly, which is awful and regrettable for all of us, but he left it with his memory intact in all of us. He is still the man he was and will always be in our minds. He's an extraordinary friend. He is a friend that I have lost, which has made walking through these fields of life dimensionally more difficult. Fortunately, I have Jeannette, and we are together. But Gromo is somebody I could talk to, he could talk to me, and we could just try to make sense of what is completely incomprehensible. But also what I regret about Gromo the most in his leaving is that in French we have a term, compagnon d'armes. He was a fighter. He was my brother in a fight, and the fight was to bring justice and to bring Calix and Mburushimana to justice. To get the UN to acknowledge that they protected one of theirs who participated in the genocide. Gromo and I, but we failed. We failed. Gromo died. But as I think I just heard, what came out of 1 year ago, what became very clear for me, is that there is this responsibility to continue the fight. And if anything, it's to continue the fight in Gromo's memory. So I think I will, and I know a number of my friends will. The last thing I want to share with you. The wine you have here is extraordinary. Mouton Cadet. Gromo and I found a case of Mouton Cadet in April '94 in Kigali.
Wow.
It is a wine that we drank throughout the genocide. It is the wine that I remember sitting down with him and just trying to make sense of what many of you have gone through, which did not make sense at all, but I can tell you as a Frenchman, wine does have a soothing effect. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles, and we're all going to raise a glass to Greg. Let us have a drink, a sip to Greg. Amen to that. And now we're going to invite Ron, please. You come and give us your big hug. We want it. Thank you.
Maybe I could just start out by picking up where introduced as Charles. He's shocking. Just to pick up on something that you said right at the end, and reminded me of something. When you found the Mouton Cadet in Chad, a very long story for the background of it, but Gromo and 3 guys from Langley, not to mention any agency names, managed at one point to get in over the back wall of the abandoned American ambassador's house and brought out the most wonderful supply of goodies that we ever enjoyed living in a refugee. He had all those wonderful cocktail wings, all those pre-mixed margaritas. And the other thing he brought out, which made no impression on me whatever, but he brought out probably at least 30 or 40 beta videotapes of every college basketball game I think that had been played in the last 10 years. And that's what we spend a lot of our time doing, because you know how exciting living in the middle of a refugee camp can be. I don't even know the rules of basketball. I wish he'd brought out some hockey games. When we lost Gromo a year ago, it left an enormous space that was created in our lives. But most of all, of course, in the lives of his family, but among his legion of friends, because they are truly legion. And today is a reminder that we now bear our responsibility of filling the space that man left behind. And it demands a lot of all of us to even begin to do so, but the life of such a man deserves and demands that we honor him by emulating that example that he set. Cultural tradition is the glue that binds human society, and by tradition Gromo's mantle as family head is passing to Tommy. I know little of the specifics of Rwandan culture or tradition, and I certainly can't even begin to pronounce the term in Kenya-Rwanda that applies here. So I'll use the term from West Africa in West African Creole in West Coast. And Tommy is now the chop chair. Taking his father's place, he now sits at the head of the family table and thus assumes all of the responsibilities that entails. To provide for, to protect and to guide, and to love and counsel his mother and his sisters, and eventually to do so for Gromo's grandchildren. This is a huge and heavy task for a young man. Had life been fair, Tommy would have had many more years to prepare for this role, but he can do so, I know, because he's Gromo's son. Tommy should keep in mind just two things. Whether thrust into the role as a youth or as a man of much advanced age, the wise chop chair guides more than he leads, and always seeks counsel and guidance and builds consensus. And secondly, when necessary, all Tommy need do is to ask himself, what would my father have done?
Thank you.
I urge Tommy to follow the example of his father in caring for everyone whose life his will touch, as if they were his own blood relatives, his sisters and brothers, even those who do not deserve that consideration. That's how his father lived his life, and that's what made him the man he was, and the man that we so fondly remember.
Again, thank you so very much. That was beautiful. That was so very well, beautifully. And thank you. May you please email Tommy those words.
I will.
I can almost guarantee in the times he'll be so weak, as we all have been. He'll be guided by your words. And so may we please invite Pat now. Oh. Pat has a word. Let's see his big fat hands.